Okay, welcome everyone. We'll have a quick video tutorial for this time, and it's all about quick animations using the video sequencer. And what I mean is that we're gonna make an object move by using the video sequencer instead of a full blueprint or the animation settings and mode on Unreal Engine, just to keep it a bit more simple. For things like in architecture, you have some objects activating, moving from one side to another, and it's really quick and easy. You don't need to go too deep into animation settings. So I'm gonna open this one that I already created before, just to show you what I mean a bit more. So I have this cube, which is this one that I have in front of me. And what I did is that now that cube moves from one side to another. And if we play, let's come here. When I step on it, it's gonna start moving in front of me just to take me to the other side. So that's what I mean on quick sequencer animations. So let's see how I created all of this. So the first step is gonna be to create a cinematic level sequence. You can call it anything that you want. Let's do another cube. Moving to the side. Just make sure that you always name things correctly. And let's do one for, let's do this one. We'll make it rotate as well. Let's see how that goes. Right, by default, you're gonna get this option of transform. And then in the video sequencer, you get keyframes that you can control the different movement that you want to do. So in this case, a few things that I like to do first is make sure that I have a few settings correctly. I prefer to have it in seconds. By default, it's going to be frames. Depends on what you want to do with it. One might be better than the other. This one, I'm going to keep it as seconds. And then what I can do is remember to bring the geometry into the video sequencer. And you can click the transform keyframe. So that one is going to be in that position. Let's come around here. I want it to rotate a bit. See the lines. This is something good to keep in mind. If you try to change the geometry and move the sequencer, timeline is going to reset to the previous keyframe that you have. So it's good to first move to the next point, then move the geometry to the position that you want, and then create a new keyframe. You can see in here as well, I expanded this transform option to see the location, rotation, and scale. So you can control those independently. And you can also do it in general with that plus in the transform section. It's gonna do it for all three of them at the same time. Now let's go to, let's say 2 seconds, and I'm gonna move these to the side and create a new keyframe. Now if we play that sequence, you can see what it does. Move and moves. Also, something good to do is going to be to check the curve of the movement. I like to select all of them. Again, depends on what you want to do. You might want the movement to slowly speed up and then slowly go into a stop. But sometimes, maybe with this one that is more just a quick transportation mode from one side to another, it can be into, I'm going to select all with Control A and go into linear interpolation. You can press 4 as well. Let's save, close, and now the movement is going to be all in the same speed. It depends on what you want to achieve, so you can see what works better for you. Now the other question is how to make it activate when you step on it or when you get closer, or basically to have a trigger to activate that animation. So what you need first is going to be a trigger. So let's bring a trigger box. I'm going to place it in here. It's going to be important to name it correctly. So let's say for this one, cube side move trigger. There you go. What I'm gonna do, again, now you start to think about the logic of what you're trying to do. In this case, let's bring a cube in here, just as a base. So when I step on that one, the cube is going to move in front of me with that animation. So let's reset here. We have this now. And the next step is to connect that trigger with the animation. And we can do that here in the level blueprint. It's a really small blueprint that you have to do. So this is the previous one. That is the transporter cube that I made before. And the way that it works is, first, you need to select the trigger that you want to use in the outliner. Then come here to the side. When you click or right click, it's going to give you a few defined options by the selection that you have in the outliner. So keep in mind, if you have something else selected, it's going to give you different options in that first section. So let's select the trigger, right click, come here to collision, because we want it to activate when it gets to that box, or when it is within that box. So we want to use an actor begin overlap. Here we go. And you can also see that the name gets in brackets in here, in parentheses. The next step is going to be to tell Unreal to look for the sequence. So let's say sequence, if I spell correctly, sequencer. Actually, it might be easy. Play sequence, create level sequence player. That's the one. Then we can connect that one. We can search for that one. We have cube moving to the side. And then the next step is to tell Unreal to play that sequence. Play sequence player. And there's a few more options. So depending on what you want to do, you may want that animation to loop, go back and restart, or maybe you want it to go back and forth, depending on what you want to do. So maybe when you step at some point, it goes in one direction. When you step in a different point, it goes in the other direction. So play with those options. For this one, just let's keep it simple. And it's going to be this option. And now we can indicate that this player is going to play that sequence, right? And that's going to be it. That's all you need to do. Compile and close. And let's see what happens when I play this one. There you go. And immediately it starts to play. Now, something else that it's going to happen is you can see it resets after a moment. That is because the playing option is by default to reset, or a project default is to reset to the original state. So if we wanted to move and make it stop at that point, that is what I did for this cube. So when you move, it stops and doesn't try to reset and keep going. Or maybe you want it to reset, so maybe that's an option. You can also make it animate so it goes all the way to the end and then come back in the animation. Let's say in here we go 2, 3, and I click here, so it goes back. Now the animation goes from one side to another, then comes back, and if it is in the exact same position, so it is good to keep it as restore state, so it just goes to the original state. So different things that you can do. In this case, I'm going to do keep state. That means that it's going to get to that point and it's going to stop. It's not going to try to reset. Once I do that, when I play, get here, starts the animation, and it goes back. There you go. That's all I did. So something interesting that you can play with, you can activate a lot of options in here. The basic one is the transform, but you can bring anything to this sequencer, and anything that you bring into that sequencer is gonna play. You can even bring something like the light or the sunlight. Let's bring lighting, directional light. So now that I bring this directional light in here, I can play with that sequencer. So let's say I want, and we can go now to the details panel and say that I want to keyframe. Let's see which one it is that move the, oh, that's too far, too fast. All right, let's go slow. Let's keyframe in 0. Let's play 0. this position of the sun, so I can keyframe the rotation. And we don't have transform, but we can bring this plus button and we should get the option to transform that object. Here it is, all the way to the top. In tracks you can click transform. Now you're gonna get those options. So if you see one component, object or geometry that you bring into the sequencer that doesn't have that transform, you should be able to bring that in here. And now we can go to the rotation. You can even control each one of them. So for this one, I can save all the rotation here in that frame. Let's go all the way to the end to 3 seconds. And now let's see what position would be good. Let's go nice sunset right there. And I can click the rotation again. And now you can see what it has. And because it's all within the same sequencer that I activated in the blueprint, now let's say first, if I play and come to this cube, the sun is also going to be animated with that sequencer. So really powerful, lots of things that you can do in there. Remember as well that now this animation is going to reset its state. So you need to come here and keep state. When you finish, it's going to stay in that position. That's why the sun sort of reset it once I stopped moving. And that's it. Something really fun to do, really quick and easy animations that you can add into any project, and all goes into that blueprint. And if you want to create a new one, just create a new sequencer, and then just in this section you can just change it to any sequence that you have, and the rest is going to be the same. So keep playing with these settings. So many things that you can do. So have fun, and I'll see you next time.